Amar B'Echanan, Mishum Reb ben Yochai. Another quotation b'shem Reb ben Yochai. Kaveh Mokum L'Tfilasai. Anyone who has a specific place to daven, you pick a certain place. Oivav Noshel Tachtov. Your enemies fall beneath you. Shenemar V'samti Mokoim La'amil Yishav V'Natasif V'Shachen Tachtov V'Lo Yirgzu Oid V'Lo Yesif V'Pnei Avla L'Noisei Kasher Barshaina. Okay, so if you have a specific place, you had all sorts of other benefits of having a specific place where you daven. A new thing, person has enemies, they fall to him. Rav Huna Rami, Rav Huna says there's a contradiction. Ksiv la noisai v'ksiv l'chalaisai. In one place it says, the beginning it says la noisai, that he's answered, and then it says that they're destroyed. So he answers, B'tchila la noisai. If you pick a specific place to daven, the base of Mikdash, he's referring to the base of Mikdash. Originally the base of Mikdash is la noisai. The people should daven, and they should be answered for all their needs, all their wants are answered. B'saif l'chalaisai. This is how they explain. In the end, it's the person davens there and he won't be destroyed for protection. Another memra. This is a massive, fascinating, interesting subject, concept. It's more important to help someone to serve. Shimush literally means to serve. It's more important to serve a Talmud Chacham than to learn Torah. What does that mean? You got a Talmud Chacham, and so let's see, where does he get from? Shenemar. How does he know this? It says, Poi Elisha ben Shaphat. This is Elisha, the Novi Elisha. Asher yotzak mayim al yedei Eliyahu. Poured water on the hands of Eliyahu. Lama lo nema. It doesn't say he learned Torah from Eliyahu. Ela yotzak. He poured water. Melamed. This teaches us the principle that K'dayla shemusha yesem elimuda. It's more valuable to help someone, to serve someone, to Talmud Chacham, than to learn Torah. So why is that? It's a massive machlekes. What does it mean? So I saw a few pshat. The first pshat they say is that when you learn Torah from someone, there's so much to learn. A lot of it's not halacha l'maisa. A lot of it's not relevant. And only a certain amount's relevant. So you don't know what's relevant or not. Here, if you shimush, by definition, you only see someone doing what's halacha l'maisa. You're only going to get halacha l'maisa. The Gra, I think, says it's because it's easy to remember. You might not remember some halacha your Rav told you 25 years ago, but you'll remember if you wash your hands like this, you wash your hands like that you see him repeating stuff. You're going to see how he actually does it. Some say it's because everything he does is l'maisa, right? Everything the Rav does is halacha l'maisa. You might learn something, he might teach you Torah, but it's not halacha l'maisa. You might get confused. Also, some say you might, if you just learn the contextual text, you got to start making shikulei adas. What should I do now? I learned this, I learned that. Now what do I do? But you see the guy, how he acts. You see the Adam Gadol, Talmud Chacham acting, so you know exactly what to do. This is what he did. You don't have to get into all the nitty-gritty details. Some say what it means is that when you mishamash Talmud Chacham, you also see how he acts with worldly things, not just with Torah. You see how he treats people when it's not Torah. So you're getting the whole picture. You're not just getting a narrow halachic thing. Others want to say that, you know why? Because when you see someone, when you mishamash someone, you're going to pick up from the Yiras Hashem. It's not just, okay, halacha l'maisa, what do you do? You're picking up Yiras Hashem. You're learning how to become a good Jew. My feeling is that, first of all, I didn't see anyone saying this, but first of all, why does it say you have to be mishamash Talmud Chacham? Right? He poured water. Because he hanged around there. You couldn't get all these benefits just from hanging around. So my feeling is that there's a relationship going on over here. Right? You want to learn from this Adam God, or you help him out. You become useful. If you're useful, it's about the relationship. When you have this relationship with, Elisha had a relationship with Eliyahu Navi. It wasn't just that he studied his books. He had a relationship. He got from him, he gave back. You got to give back. If you're not giving back, you're just learning from someone. There's no relationship. That's just, you're a sponge. You're a parasite. You just took whatever you could from him, and that's it. It's about having a relationship with this guy. That kirva, that's what's going to make you into a great person. Having a relationship with Eliyahu Navi, that's what made Elisha great. So when you have a relationship with a Talmud Chacham, that's what creates greatness. Okay. L'chayr, that's how I understand it. Others, okay. Otherwise, why do you have to, it's a big question, why do you have to actually help? I remember Rav Miller saying, you know what, there's plenty of big Talmid Chacham walking around, old people, learning Torah their whole lives. Go over to one of them and offer it. He doesn't have a car, he's an old man, give him a ride, you got a car, make yourself useful. Plenty of Rabbanim. You see them on the bus, make yourself useful, offer a ride, you'll get so much from these people. You get so much, right? All you got to do is keep your mouth shut and learn from the guy. Make yourself useful. By the way, my car needs a wash if anyone wants to do it. Make yourself useful, and it'll be very hard for them. Why do you have to make yourself useful? It'll be very hard for them. Like an old man, it's hard for him to do things. What's it called? It'll be hard for him to push you away. Make yourself useful. It'll be like, go do the shopping for the guy. He's going to love it. You're going to gain so much. You're going to go, Elam Haza, Elam Haba. Go for it. That's what he says. Says the gemorah. Amalei Rabbi Yitzchak Rav Nachman. I want to say another thing before I go further. I think another nekudah is when you learn Torah, you're getting the principles, you're getting the klal. You don't get to the fine print, the darkest, the fine details. When you live with someone, when you're washing his hands, you see exactly how he acts in the finest details, the finest resolution. You can't learn that. You can't learn it in a sefer. I was zeicha to be very close to Adam Gadol Moed, right, as a kid growing up. My step-grandfather, he was one of the biggest Talmid Chacham, one of the biggest Talmidim. I learned so much from him. You can't, if you tell someone, do chesed, okay, amazing, you do chesed. I'll say a story about Rav Gross from here in Shul, that you can tell the guy, do chesed. I remember one time someone came into Shul in a wheelchair Friday night, and for the entire Kabbalah Shabbos, I mean, this guy was really badly off. He was drooling, he was Rachmanis, and he just sat there for 45 minutes, everyone's dancing. He held his hand for the entire Kabbalah Shabbos, dancing with him. Until you see such a thing, you can't explain something. Unless you see it, it's you have to actually see it. You have to live it. You have to see how people actually act. It's not enough to say, "Oh, do be kind." If you live with someone, it's like a whole different level. Anyway, this is the gemorah. Amar Yitzchak Rav Nachman. My time he started champering him. Why didn't you come to shul to Daven today? People ask me this all the time. Where were you today? We missed you. I couldn't come. Okay, so we know this is the old conversation. You might think it's happened just now, first time ever. This is an old conversation. Why don't you come to shul? Let's say, why don't you make a minyan in your house and daven? It's too much of a headache, too much of a bother. People should tell you when the community is davening, when there's a minyan, and daven with them. We'll tell you. What are you chirping so much about it? What's the big deal? You know why you should daven when the tzibur davens, even if you daven b'yechidus. But you have a guy knock on your door. Oh, they're about to daven Shemona Esrei. Why? We're on the top of Ches Amud Aleph. David said, my prayer to you is Eis Ratzon. What does it mean Eis Ratzon? How did David know when's Eis Ratzon? A must Eis Ratzon. When is a time of compassion? When the community is davening, that is the Eis Ratzon. So interestingly, maybe it means you should daven with a minyan. How's he learning from this pasuk? Even when you're davening alone, it's good enough. So what the Achronim and Medayik is that the pasuk says, "V'ani tefilasi," my prayer, my individual prayer, is Eis Ratzon when the tzibur davens. So in other words, he's davening by himself. V'ani tefilasi, it's my individual prayer. I'm not davening with the tzibur, but it's still an Eis Ratzon. A must Eis Ratzon shasib zon. Rabbi Chanina Omer Mahacha. I have a different pasuk. It says, "Koyam Hashem be'Eis Ratzon in Yisicha." Different pasuk. Ravacha Rabbi Chanina Omer Mahacha. Hein keil kabir v'lo yimas. V'chsev poter b'shal nafshi v'korav li ki barabim hayu imadi. Okay, different psukim for the same principle. Tanya Nami Hochi, you have a brayso that says the same thing. Reb Nosson Omer. How do you know that Hashem doesn't turn away, isn't disgusted by, isn't Doesn't shun, I think is the word. Tfilosan sharabim, when a community gets together and they pray together, shenem ahein keil kabir v'lo yimas. V'chsiv pada b'shal nafshi b'kavli. V'gaimer. Okay. So he has that passage tell me that when the tzibur daven, Hashem answers. Amakadosh Baruch Hu, what does this mean? Kol Isaac b'Torah. Someone who studies Torah. U'b'gvulis chasadim. And he acts kindly. U'mispalel matzibur, and he davens with a minyan. In other words, Torah, Avodah, Gvulis chasadim, the three pillars of the world. Ma'ale ani alav ki'ilu padani li v'lebanai mebeinu masaylam. I look at it as if he's saved. He's padai. He's what's the word?
Redeemed.
He's redeemed. He's redeemed me and my children from the world. So the Rebbeinu Yonah says, basically, that was the job of the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash was a place where with davening we should be redeemed. But if this person's on the dargi, he's doing Torah, Torah, Avodah, Gvulis chasadim, so it's like he built the Beis Hamikdash. He's like a Beis Hamikdash. This guy, this Yid, that's learning Torah, Chesed, and Avodah, he's davening. He's like a Beis Hamikdash. So it's like the Gula came. Unbelievable Rebbeinu Yonah. Omar Reish Lakish, fast wide line. Basically, that's a bira. If someone has a shul in his town, he doesn't go into daven, lispalal, nikra shachenah. That's called a bad neighbor. So what the Mefarshim point out is that it says beiroi. They used to have the shuls. The synagogues used to be in the field. So if you didn't go to the field, you weren't called a bad neighbor. Okay, whatever reason, it's a tircha, it's hard, it's far. You don't want to drag out to the field, get your shoes dirty. I don't know what. That's not called you a bad neighbor. But if it's in your town, in the city, and you don't go, you're shachin ra.
But what's the idea of neighbor though? It's just bad.
Why you bad? Oh, so the Mefarshim says it means that you're shachin ra HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's how you treat Hashem. He's your neighbor. Your house is in the shul. His house is he's a neighbor. Hashem's shul is in your neighborhood. You don't walk in. Your brother lives next door to you. You don't come. You don't say hello. It's like weird, right? The shechin is right next door. There's a shul. Go in. That's called your bad neighbor. If you have a new guy moves into town, or especially if it's your brother, moves next door to you, don't come in, bring a box of fat chocolate, and say, hi, welcome to the neighborhood, right? That's what you do. It's called a good neighbor. You don't do that. You never step into shul. You're a bad neighbor. Shnema, Koyam Hashem. I call Sheikhna Aroim. Anoigim Menachal, Hashem Chalti Yesami, Yes Yisrael. Okay. Not only is he called a bad neighbor, he's going to cause for him and his children to be nigla, to be exiled. So not a good idea. We'll go into shul. What if you have your own shul? I don't think it means you have to go to every different shul in town, right? You have your own shul, that's great. There's more than one shul in town. We saw before, you got to be kaveh, you have to pick one shul. This is a fascinating gemorah. Look, listen to this, Rabbi. This is amazing gemorah. Are there old people in Bavel? Is there zikna in Bavel? Do you have like a bunch of guys walking around with walking sticks in the 80s? Or are they all youngsters? Ikasab Bavel, Tama? It says, Tama V'ama, it says in the pasuk, L'man yibu yimechem v'menechem ala doma. You have arichas yom, you have a lengthy life. Ala doma, and that's Yisrael ksiv. Ava b'chutza atzlai. If you live outside Eretz, there's no arichas yomim. So they told him, yeah, they're raw, I guess. They told him they're raw, what's it called? How come? It says, L'man yibu yimechem v'menechem ala doma. So how'd you get arichas yomim? Aladoma. If you live in Eretz, school of arichas yomim. I think Israel has one of the highest in the world. What's it called? Life expectancies. It's one of the highest life expectancies in the world. And there's a tremendous bracha. You see tons of old people walking around over here. One of the highest life expectancies in the world. Even with all the wars and with all whatever's going on over here, there's people still here live longer than anywhere else. So you can tell me, Japan has much older people, but could be it's a klala for them because they can't support them. There's no children there. They have like an average of one child per person. So the average grandchild, four grandparents, like 4 8-year-olds who've got like 2, maybe 60-year-olds. They've got like one guy in his 20 supporting like half a dozen guys in the 90s. There's I think they said already 60 years ago they sold more diapers for old people than for kids in Japan, right? That's the statistic. In that show, which has the highest in the OECD of birth rates, it's the only country, the only developed country which with the pizza replacement. All the other countries like 1.2, 1.4 children per woman. In Israel, it's like 3 something. So it's a tremendous bracha to have arichas yom here, and there's also children. So he was astonished. Like, how could people live a long life? Now, what's interesting is the Gemara doesn't answer because it says, right? It says someone who honors his parents have a lengthy life, because the Gemara says that's referring to Olam Haba, right? The guy climbed up the tree, fell down, he was doing kibbud avayim, and he died. So that, when it talks about kibbud avayim, leman yibui mecha, that's Olam Haba. But this is talking about leman yibui mecha ala adoma. Actual segula for living a long life is to live in Eretz Yisrael. So how can people in Bavel live a long life? So what do they say to him? Given the Amri le mikadmi mechashri lebeknishta. They come early to shul and they leave late from shul. They come to shul. That's a skula. Coming to shul and leaving is a school. Hainu da'ahani lu. That's what helps them. Levi. That's what Reb Shua ben Levi told his children, Lebane, Kadimu v'chashicha v'ayla beiknishta, keichid d'taricha chayi. Reb Shua ben Levi told his children, you want to live a long life? Come to shul early, leave late, you have arichas yom. It's actually machlekes. What does this mean? Does it mean you should be the first one in shul in the morning, and at night you should be the last one to leave? That's the pashtus. Come early and leave late. The Torah actually says, what does it mean? It means that you have to come to shul in the morning and come to shul at night. Just coming to shul, that's a school of arichas yomim. You don't actually have to be the first one there. Amar Chanina, Barebi Chanina. Micro, what does it mean? Ashrei Adam, Shemaya li lishkat al dal soisai. Yoim yoim lishma bezuzis pischi. What does this pasuk mean? The Chesiv Basrei says afterwards, Ki maitza matzachayim, that if you come to shul, lishmat lasai, then you have chayim, you have life. That's how he understands this pasuk. Amar this is a halachic memra. You should walk into shul through 2 doors. We don't have 2 doors, you walk through 1 door, right? So what does it mean? Why should you go through 2 doors? You have to go to 1 door then another? No. When you sit down in shul, you should always move away from the door the distance of 2 psachim. Don't daven right by the door. First of all, you block people who are people trying to come in. I've been there, right? You normally get knocked over. You move in. Your door is normally 80 centimeters wide. Move a meter 60 away from the door, right?
It's my height. He said
a meter 60, move away from the door. Well, some doors are 70, some doors are 80, some doors are 100. I don't know. I wonder if it's totally in how big the door of the shul is. It doesn't say, but move away 2 doors. And the Mefarshim explain, because if you're diving right next to the door, it looks like you're trying to leave. It looks like you're ready. Rashi says, "The nira olav kamasoi ikov basic knesses ve'imuzum samach pesach lates." It looks like you're waiting by the door to leave. You see a guy standing by the door. He's ready to pounce, right? He's ready to bounce. Right? He's 1 foot out of the door. Move in, settle down, relax. You're here for a while. That's how you should daven. Rebbe Yena has another opinion over here. He says maybe what it means is a shir zman of shnei psachim. It doesn't mean it means walk in and wait for 10 seconds before you daven Shemona Esrei. Don't just come in and daven. You should have to try and gather your thoughts before you just straight away start praying, right? So he has that suffix. What does it mean? Rebbe Yena says something fascinating though. He says that this was only in those days. This is a big chiddush. Rebbeinu says, in those days where people didn't have a makom kavua, you didn't have a specific place in your shul where you davened. So if you davened by the door, it's because you wanted to bounce, right? But nowadays where people have their own seat, you pay 100 shekel a month for your seat. If your seat's next to the door, everyone knows it's not because you want to bounce, it's because this is where your seat is. So there's no problem with that. You can daven by the door. Rebbeinu. Okay. It's a bit of a chiddush because it's not the mashra here, but we could be saying Rebbeinu. Says the Gemorah, this is what is a fascinating, one of the most famous Gemorahs in Shas. This is what a person should daven when I guess when something's to be found, leis matzah, at the time of finding, when you're busy finding something, when you're playing hide and seek, you're trying to find something, you should daven. V'amar Rav Chanina, what does this mean? Leis matzah zu isha. You know what you should daven for? A good wife. Shenema matzah isha matzah taiv. Matzah, you find a good wife. Matzah isha matzah taiv. You found a wife, you found good. Women are good. You hear this? Any woman is good. But Marava, they said, Kinosav Inish, Isasa, when someone got married, they used to go over and say, Amri lei, hachi, matzah or maitza? Is it matzah isha matzah taiv? You found a good wife, or maitza? What's maitza? Matzah dechsev, matzah isha matzah taiv. V'yofa got to Hashem. Maitza dechsev, what's this maitza? Or maitza nimar says isha. I find the woman is worse than death. Right? So in Marava, they used to go over the guy and say, matzah maitza. How's your wife? She's one of the good ones? Or that's it. Says, someone has a bad wife, anyway, ben pnei gehenim. It's an aggravation. Reb Nosson no, leis matzah is not an isha. It's Torah. A person should always daven for Torah. Shenema ki moitzi matzah Chaim. Torah is matzah is Chaim. Chaim is Torah. V'nachem vayitzchakam al leis matzah zu misa. A person should daven for a good misa. A person should daven that you shouldn't suffer. You should have it easy. Shnei lomas teitzais. Teitzais is a losh of maitza. The misa is a losh of teitzais. There's 903 types of deaths a person can have. Teitzais b'gematria hachi. Teitzais is gematria of 903. Have a kashim shekol askara. Some disease called askara is the worst one. Nicha shekol nishicha. The easiest type of death is a kiss of death. So just a fascinating story. I don't know if it's true or not, but they say a story about Rabbi and Kotla, I think it was, that one of the big mob bosses was supporting yeshiva or something like that, and they brought him in to ask him for bracha. If the mob boss asks you for bracha, you don't say no, right? So he came into this old mob boss, and the story has it that he told him, you should die in your bed. And this mob boss got up and started kissing. All his talmidim were like, oh my gosh, you just cursed this guy, he's petrified. And he was the happiest person in the world because he lived a life being scared he's going to get shot down in the street like a dog. And this Adam Gadol, he understood. No, it's a gemorah. No. Person should daven for a good misa. Daven in bed at night like everyone else. That's what he wanted. And apparently he lived a long life, died in bed. So, you ever heard that story? There's something like that. I remember hearing such a story, right? Askra damik chizra begalva the amr the lachvi nashra. So askra, what's askra is like a thorn. When you pull the thorn out of the wool, and a bit of wool always comes with it, right? So the neshama is being pulled out of the person, and some neshama is still stuck. It's a painful thing. It's like pulling a rope through a tiny hole. It's just like when a person's neshama is being dragged out of him slowly. It's like, right? Neshika, what's a kiss of death? Dami kamishchal benisa mechalva. It's like taking a hair out of milk. It's the easiest thing. I don't know why milk, but there you go, right? For some reason, it's amazing how some of these expressions stayed in the world. Kiss of death, right? There you go. You know what eis matzah? You pass should daven for kvura. Pass should daven for a good burial plot. Interesting. Because people don't realize they're dead, but they're still feeling stuff. Pastor should ask for Rachmanis until the last piece of dirt is poured on top of his grave. I know they say about certain basic verse in Yerushalayim, people are dying to get in there. Mazutra Amar, Leis Matzah is basic kisa. You know what Leis Matzah is? Basic kisa. A person should daven that this bathroom activity should be without any problems. Ami Marava, they changed their mind. Hod the Mazutra Adifa Mikulu. This thing the Mazutra said, the person Leis Matzah, each person should pray for his bathroom. That's better than all the other pshatim. That's what a person should really daven for. Bathroom. Fascinating stuff. Amali Ravalu Rafram, Papa. Rava said to Raf from Bar Papa, tell us one of your good zogs. Tell us something over you said in the name of Chisda. He said something good about shuls, you know. Remember he said stuff about going to shul. What did you tell us? This is Rav Chis said, Hashem loves the gates of Zion more than all of the Mishkanos Yaakov, the dwellings of Yaakov. So Hashem Hashem likes the gates of excellence in halacha. More than all the shuls. Since the base of Mikdash was destroyed, where is Hashem Shara the Shechina? In Arba Amos Halacha Bavad. And to understand the next line of the gemorah, the next few lines, it's important to know that in those days, right, and you still have this in like some old kehilas, they had a big shul. Everyone goes to synagogue, everyone has to pray, so people paid money, and they had a nice big shul where everyone could get together, right? But the base of Medrash, how many people went to the base of Medrash to learn? It wasn't like everyone was in the base of Medrash. They had a little base of Medrash somewhere, people went and learned, a little stiebel somewhere on the side. You still have now some of these big shuls, I know, in England where I was, they have a big shul with 600 people, but they don't turn the lights on every day. There's two ways to the air conditioning. They have a little room on the side where you have 20, 30, 40 people. They daven their 3 million a day, and they learn there, and the svarim are there. So what's better, to daven in, we're going to discuss now, what's better, daven in the big shul or in the little thing on the side, right? So V'amar Baye, Mireish originally have a kasina b'goy beisa, matzilna b'goy kanishta. I used to learn at home. You know, here's my svarim, my stender, But I used to go to shul. I used to go to the synagogue to daven. Kiv the shman lahad dam Rav Chia. Now they heard what Rav Chia said. Barami mishmei deula miyash chabes bezel kash baruch hu ela rabas halacha. Once I heard this, la yava mitzil na ela echad gesina. I only now daven where I learn. Incredible stuff. So it's a big machlokes. We'll wrap up with this neighbor, but the shaila is like this. Is he talking about davening b'yechidus by himself? Instead of now going to shul, he davens by yechidus by himself. So that's how Ben Yehuda learns. What does he mean? Better to learn gemorah all day and sit where you are, daven shmona extra, and go back to learn. Don't waste time. Don't go to shul. It takes you time to get there. It takes you time to come back. You're wasting time. Says the people got in bittul Torah. Or is the Rama says no. It means what's better to learn. To daven where there's a minyan and your little shtibel on the side, like we said, your little kleis on the side, there's 10 people that are learning there, you daven with a minyan, but you're not davening with 400 people. There's a principle called Roiva Madras Melech. It's always better to daven with massive amount of people, it's covered Hashem. So what's better, to daven in a little place with 10 people? For sure, if you're the Rambam, you shouldn't go you should always daven with a minyan. A minyan's before davening in your place where you learn Torah. Just interestingly, people Gordon says it's because of bittul Torah. That's not mashma here. People Gordon says it's because of bittul Torah. Mashma says because that's where the shechina is. You shouldn't. Why should you daven where you learn? Is it because you're going to waste Torah time? Or is it because that's where the shechina is? The Gemara is saying that's where the shechina is. Mishnah Berurah says it's fine. If it's a place where you have okay, we'll wrap up over here. They started slichos, but I'm Mishnah Berurah. Take a look at Mishnah Berurah. Take a look at people garden. Interesting stuff. Have a wonderful day.